You know, when you say Yu-Gi-Oh video games in the modern day, people think, oh, Master Duel. They might think Duel Links.
Yeah.
And then a few people might think, oh, Cross Duel. But Yu-Gi-Oh actually has a very rich history of video games that kind of enraptured us in our youth and helped us become the Yu-Gi-Oh fanatics we are today.
And a rich history it is, because we're going to be going through it all. This is a brief look at the history of Yu-Gi-Oh video games, where they started, where some of the territory they explored, where things changed. So I think that Yu-Gi-Oh video games, broadly speaking, can be separated into like 3 eras. There's sort of the early days, which they literally turned into an early days collection. You know, there's like the Middle Ages and then like the New Age games. And I'll explain, I guess, more of it, but when you think of early Yu-Gi-Oh video games from your childhood, what was your relationship with those, if any at all?
I would always see ads for them in like Shonen Jump magazines and stuff, and like Beckett magazines. But I couldn't just have them because I was a young child. And,
yeah, same. I couldn't get.
You know, we would get a new video game maybe like twice or 3 times a year. And even if you got a new video game, you didn't necessarily get the pick of the litter, right? It was whatever was at GameStop.
What was there.
So Yu-Gi-Oh video games, I knew they existed. They were on like the Game Boy Color, the Game Boy Advance, and I wanted them, had no idea how to get them.
Yeah, similar for me. I never had any of the classic games when they were like coming out. I feel like I played a lot of them like after the fact, a few years down the line. I had a Game Boy Color and stuff like that and a Game Boy Advance, but because the selection of games I had access to was, like you said, so limited, I usually would like pick something different over. Like if I'm gonna get one game, it's gonna probably be a Pokemon game or something.
Yeah,
like,
Pokemon was consistent. Yu-Gi-Oh games, not so much. I remember my first Yu-Gi-Oh video game was actually like Dark Duel Stories. And it wasn't necessarily my game, and now don't judge me, but I either stole this game or it was given to me by a friend. I do not know which, but I remember it was in like my last year of elementary school that I kind of got my hands on a copy of it.
Yeah, I think my first one was like Dark Duel Stories maybe, but like I got it in like 2006 or 7. Like it was like from like a garage sale or something. Like it was very like $2 and anyway, so I think to set the stage of early Yu-Gi-Oh games, here's kind of what comes to mind for me, like the position that they were in. So it's like Yu-Gi-Oh was a pop culture phenomenon at the time.
For sure.
It was a children's property, or at least that was kind of how it was marketed. And I think that like any children's property, you kind of have to make video games for it too. Just because it's like one more thing for the kids to ask their parents to buy, one more foot that they've got in.
It's all about making a dollar bill.
In the whole thing. And I think that for Konami in those early days as well, these are probably pretty low budget games. I think you can see that in how a lot of them are designed. They didn't like spend loads making them. They kind of had to get a lot out of a little.
I mean, relatively speaking, when you're designing games for the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color, I don't think any game was like a tremendous expenditure.
Yeah, that's true at the time.
The difference between an old Yu-Gi-Oh game and a Pokemon game was not that big.
That's true. That is true. The first games that came out, at least for us in the West, were Dark Duel Stories on the Game Boy Color and also Forbidden Memories on the PS1. I think that these games came out like within a week of each other, so like it might as well have just been at about the same time. Just before we talk about them though, a lot of games only came out in Japan.
Oh yeah. Yu-Gi-Oh video games, they might have triple the number of games that we ever got.
Yeah, and so sometimes not only would they come out in Japan, but also like they would have different names. So that was kind of confusing.
The Dark Duel Stories problem.
Yeah, so basically, like I was just looking at this list here, and they talk about how there was Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, which came out on the Game Boy.
Yep.
And that was only in Japan. And then there was Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters 2, Dark Duel Stories. And then there was Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters 3, Tri-Holy God Advent, which is what
a
we
wonderful
got.
name.
That's what we got as Dark Duel Stories.
So their Dark Duel Stories was the second. We get Yu-Gi-Oh! Tri-Holy God Advent.
Yeah, and there's like Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters 4, Battle of Great Duelists, and like it goes on and on. So we're just gonna cover like the English games. I think it's fair because it's not like we have any experience with these other ones. So Dark Duel Stories and Forbidden Memories. You said you've played Dark Duel Stories, right?
Yes.
What do you think? Okay, so these old games, the first thing that comes to mind gameplay-wise is they're trying to be card game simulators.
Yeah, or something approximate to that, because I don't know what card game they were exactly trying to simulate.
Yeah.
So these games came out in Yu-Gi-Oh's infancy. The cards existed. We had rules for the card game, but these
old
games
games
didn't necessarily follow those rules.
I think that these were supposed to be a mixture of like old manga rules and maybe some of the original Bandai card game rules. I don't know.
I mean, that's kind of how I looked at them. That in hindsight, I look at them kind of more trying to emulate the old like Bandai version of the card game with a little bit of that modern flair to it. Modern, relatively speaking, because it's nothing like truly modern Yu-Gi-Oh. But the aspect of those games that sticks out to me the most, that truly makes it different from any other form of Yu-Gi-Oh we've ever seen, is those games typically had like an alignment system to them.
Yeah, the Yu-Gi-Oh alignment system is so interesting.
Like think like Pokemon has like the type advantage and disadvantage charts. It was kind of like that. Yu-Gi-Oh cards in like Dark Duel Stories and Forbidden Memories, they had some type of an alignment to them. At least in Dark Duel Stories, it was related to their type or attribute.
And it would affect battle. So basically the alignment chart, we'll try to like put it up on screen because some people have made it, is there was like black magic, white magic, demon magic, and illusion magic, which that was its own sort of square of things.
Yeah.
Like black magic is strong against white magic, but weak against illusion magic, and so on. But then also there were water, fire, forest, wind, earth, and thunder. And then also divine, which just didn't interact with the table.
Interact.
And so these were actually separate from the type that you would see like on the card. They were, I think, listed in game, but like generally kind of hidden to you.
If I remember correctly, no, I'm thinking of in the Sacred Cards where there were symbols. In Dark Duel Stories, I don't think I knew.
Yeah, and so the way that it worked was like, if for instance, forest was strong against wind but weak against fire. And so if your forest monster attacked a wind monster, it would just destroy the wind monster.
They didn't even bother adding up stats. If the alignment won out, that's who won the fight.
Yeah, so if the only way that actually like attack and defense points made a difference was if your alignment just didn't interact at all, or if it was like the same one, like a forest versus a forest, then it would compare attack and defense. And that's like crazy because even like high tribute monsters could just be destroyed in one hit if you knew what alignment to use. And so that was kind of neat.
What I liked was, what I kind of like about the alignment system in those old games, first I'll say what I didn't like. They were oftentimes not explained or poorly explained in those games, where when you were a kid, you kind of just had to start catching on to what was happening in the game.
Yeah.
You would get a monster who's bigger, and you'd watch the show, you played the card game, so you knew that you should win the fight, you'd attack and then lose. And typically in those old games, they were very like caveman Yu-Gi-Oh style.
Yeah, you had a lot of vanillas.
If you like lost a fight that you thought you were going to win, you probably just got snowballed right out of the game and had to restart it. It could be frustrating, but as kids, we kind of had time and we had more like elastic brains where we didn't mind just kind of bashing our head against the wall, trying to figure out how do I win this game. But what I like about those systems, because I always think about them in terms of modern Yu-Gi-Oh, it could have been a very interesting way to control power creep in the game. Yeah. Because one of the first things Yu-Gi-Oh, the physical TCG did was power creep through stats.
Yeah.
This monster had 1500 attack. Well, this one had 1600 attack, and you would just stop running all the weaker monsters and only run the stronger monsters. But in these games with alignments, there was still reason to run a weaker monster if it would beat out a stronger monster due to its alignment. Yeah,
and these old games, speaking of kids with a lot of time, these games were grindy. They were so grindy. I remember, with Dark Duel Stories, we were gonna replay it, I think, for like a video. Or this is like a couple years ago, go through all these old games and try to play them. We quickly gave up on that because they're all very long, very grindy, very merciless.
Wait, don't revise history. Paul gave up.
Okay, you were gonna play all these games?
I finished the Sacred Cards. Which one did you finish?
I got some way into Dark Duel stories.
Exactly. You hear that, folks?
These old games, so they'd start you off with very weak monsters, 450 attack.
Like, they gave you the weakest
550
monsters they
attack
could.
maybe.
I felt like they were inventing monsters to give them lower and lower
Yeah,
stats.
so a lot of these monsters, just a little quick fun fact, were in like these old games, and some of them still haven't been, like they were all in the OCG, but some of them still haven't actually been imported into like the English TCG.
Because there was no reason to.
And yeah, they're all just like, terrible vanillas, and some of them have fusion they're like materials for fusion monsters that we still don't have.
Because when the Yu-Gi-Oh card game came to the West, they combined multiple OCG sets into one to make our original sets. But that did mean some things got left out. And the problem with that was it very quickly became pointless to print some of those older terrible cards.
Yeah. Yeah, and like, you know, there was also this system where you had like a dual power level with deck building. So you were limited to, like, let's say, it kind of reminds me of Genesis format.
Yeah, they had like a deck
like
power.
Decks kind of, or like cards had like a power rating, and your deck maybe could have like 50 power points that you could spend. And even if you got like stronger cards, they might have higher point values, and so you had to also level up your like duelist point value so that your deck could just include all of the strong cards.
It's like you might get a Blue Eyes White Dragon. The Blue Eyes White Dragon might cost you 15 points, while your little like Petite Angel costs one
or something, or nothing maybe. And so that was a big thing. A lot of this didn't feel like it was like very clearly explained in these games.
God no, I would just play. I just guessed what the deck was gonna let me shove into my deck. I tried to put it the biggest cards I could, and then
and you mash, because in these games, like I remember the first level of Dark Duel Stories was literally like, here's Yugi and like 4 of his friends, beat each of us 5 times in order to progress to the next floor, which has like 5 more duelists, and you repeat. And like, so literally like, I'm ready to like duel Tristan, and then just duel him again, and then duel him again, and then duel him again. And like, it did get you, like, there were like some prizes you could get. Like they'd drop a card each time you beat them. So like there was something happening there, but I do think that they realized this was an easy way to kind of just keep kids busy, get them to just like shut up, you know?
Well, I mean that.
I mean,
The idea behind
charitable
video
about
games
that.
back then was just to be something that you can enjoy for a time. So it wasn't about creating a smooth, fast experience. It was about creating something that had replayability and entertainment value. So they didn't think of that merciless grind as, oh, we're gonna like eat up all their time and get playtime out of them. It was more so, we just never want them to feel bored with the game.
Which is true, like there was a lot to do, and if you were like into Yu-Gi-Oh at the time, which you probably were, like a lot of kids, then this game was like perfect. I mean, you're just getting to duel a bunch and like get cards.
You're seeing characters and monsters you recognize.
I also remembered Forbidden Memories. We gotta talk about that, because that's actually a little bit different. It was on PS1, and it's like mostly the same. I think it does still have the alignment system and all of that.
It had its own alignment system, right? With the star things?
Yeah, there's like star and moon.
Yeah, it was very astrology pilled, and I don't get it.
Yeah, also, it had, and I don't know if all the old games had this, but I know that Forbidden Memories had like the weird fusion system where you could just fuse on a dime. Like you just pick any 2 monsters and just hit a button that says fuse, and like, it will just attempt to make something. And you didn't, and if you were like a regular player and you didn't have a strategy guide or something, you didn't know what your monsters were gonna fuse into.
It could be anything.
There were monsters, it was kind of like, I almost want to compare it to Pokemon breeding, where I guess there were like certain monsters that would fall into different categories. If you had like the right categories of monsters, you would always make a certain fusion monster. So I know that like the meta in that game is Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, because there's like 2800 attack. It's like the highest thing you can normally make with fusion. Like Blue Eyes Ultimate's
What if there's a
game,
chance
you
it
know.
could fail and you get the 2-mouth Dark Ruler instead?
That'd be funny. If you're a kid, it's like just alternate flipped art, so you don't even know the difference.
I want to say that Dark Duel Stories had a similar fusion feature where it just ran, like, you just kind of try it and see what happens. Because that I don't think that game had a polymerization card.
Yeah, I don't think it did either. I also know that Forbidden Memories actually has a speedrunning community. For some reason.
That was crazy to find out about, that an entire Yu-Gi-Oh community had formed, and then us, who had been in the Yu-Gi-Oh community for years, didn't even know about it.
Yeah, we were looking up videos for that same video we were talking about that did not happen. We were looking up like Forbidden Memories videos, and I was like, whoa, like people, they speedrun this. There's like a big community for it. It's a whole thing. Apparently because there's like a lot of RNG manipulation, you get different cards when you start, and just all kinds of things. So that was cool. I didn't ever, actually wait, I was gonna say I didn't have a PS1. My sister had a PlayStation 1, but we never got Forbidden Memories for it, so.
That's fair. You should speedrun it.
I would have to learn how to speedrun it.
Well, that could be the content.
It'd be a whole, oh my God, you can do it.
Content over everything, Paul, you can do it.
And this video's sponsor is Into the AM, my new personal favorite go-to everyday clothing brand. If you guys have been watching any of the videos recently, you've probably seen me wearing their stuff. Into the AM is a clothing brand that focuses on both like graphic tees, which they've got a really talented team of artists who work on those. They're incredible. But for me personally, my favorite stuff is actually just simple, like low branding, unbranded tees and just different colors and sweatpants and things like that. And they've got all of that. They've got shirts, they've got like long sleeve, short sleeve, they've got sweaters, they've got hoodies, they've got pants, they've got joggers, they've got just like such a variety of stuff on their site, and I'm addicted to this stuff. Like, there's a lot of different colors, a lot of different designs. You can go for different vibes if you want to. I am a Yu-Gi-Oh player. I go to events a lot, and sometimes I'm just like, I don't know, like, what am I gonna wear today? And slipping this stuff on has been incredible. It's made it so much easier. I'm wearing a shirt right now, but I'm also wearing sweatpants. Maybe I shouldn't be doing. I'm wearing the sweatpants right now too, and they're really good. Also, they do a load of different everyday packs as well. So it'll be like, 2 shirts and a pair of pants, or a selection of like 3 shirts that you get to pick. So we do have a discount code where you can get 10% off. It's Team XAPS. Check it out. It's linked in the description as well if you want to just go there directly. Check out Into the AM, guys. Thank you to them for supporting the channel. And now, back to the video. There were also Game Boy Advance games.
Yes.
These were, I remember the Sacred Cards a little bit.
I mean, so with the Game Boy Advance games, I didn't own any of them as a kid.
Same.
I think I borrowed a copy of like World Championship like 04 or 05, one of those World Championship games in middle school. But
the Sacred Cards was the one that I just remember hearing the most about. And it was kind of unique because they were sort of trying to be a little bit more like an RPG, like maybe an Earthbound, Dragon Quest, Pokemon type thing, where there was an overworld. And you did actually like walk around in the overworld, talk to NPCs. It was, I think, based on like the Battle City tournament.
Yep.
So it was kind of an alternate telling of that, how that tournament would play out. Because, Yugi and his friends are in it, but you're the protagonist, and obviously you have to win it and stuff. But like, you would walk around and talk to people and like, oh, Weevil's at the park, like bullying people, or like Mako's at the aquarium
Bones
doing
at
things.
the graveyard.
And it still, I think, followed all the same. Like I still remember the alignment system being in there.
Yeah,
and dual points and all that.
It felt like a natural evolution of Yu-Gi-Oh! Game Boy games up to that point. And this was kind of their swing at kind of being more Pokemon-like as far as being an RPG.
Which I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Works well in an RPG fashion.
Yeah,
like I think it feels cut out for that.
I played through the Sacred Cards for that video that never was. And I had a good time playing the Sacred Cards. It could be a little frustrating. Like, it didn't lose that old Yu-Gi-Oh! Video game DNA of sometimes the game is just unfair to you.
Yeah.
The NPCs will ramp up in power, but the amount of cards and the strength of your cards don't actually increase at the same pace as the NPCs. So sometimes you just kind of
often have to reduel the same people and like hope for good drops. I think was a big
good drops, or even just a different hand, because there was with these alignment systems, you don't get to actually know your opponent's deck. And a lot of times you will lose a duel because they have a particular alignment in their deck that you don't have the counter to. And it's like, let's say it's like 2200 attack. Nothing in your deck is even bigger than that. So that one monster runs you.
I think that's actually such a cool concept though for these games, is like having to learn the alignment of maybe an enemy character's like boss monster and build your deck more around that, rather than just trying to build the generally best deck. I mean, still there were like strong cards regardless, and Dark Hole and stuff, whatever, could get rid of anything. But I think that there's There's something to that. It kind of feels very Pokemon-esque.
I remember ultimately I ended up just trying to get different hands. I just try and redo the game with a different hand.
Yeah.
And just pray that my dark holes show up when they play their thing I can't out, and they'll try to win before they can play it.
Reshif of Destruction was also the sequel to the Sacred Cards, and I don't remember which one was the hard. One of them was like kind of a normal, easy-ish game, and one was really hard. And
Reshif was hell.
I think it was Reshif that was like just a harder game, like way harder NPCs.
Reshif wanted to be even more of an RPG than the Sacred Cards was. It was a direct sequel to the Sacred Cards, but unlike the Sacred Cards, that was trying to emulate the Battle City Finals. Reshif was its own original story.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it had an extra mechanic that Sacred Cards didn't have. Your life points didn't reset between duels in Reshif.
Really? I don't remember that. Wow,
If you won a duel with only having 100 life points left, you would start the next duel with 100 life points.
Did you have to like go and like heal, like rest?
Yes.
At the Pokemon Center?
You had to go back home, and then you could reset your life points. And I feel like there was like a downside to that too, but I don't remember.
You probably had to pay
anymore.
money or something.
But the Reshif was a pain.
Yeah, I think that like all of these old games, one of the toughest parts about these Game Boy games was just that like they didn't explain a lot, and graphically, obviously like it's very limited. There's your Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance games, but the information available on screen was so limited. I remember that was just always kind of rough. Like as a kid, you didn't care too much because you were probably just mashing. But I remember when I replayed these games in Early Days Collection, like last year, they didn't do any like upscaling or remastering of the pixel stuff. So it's like you're sitting here playing it on a computer monitor, but because it's like just a blown up Game Boy Advance it just doesn't work. And so it's like, there's really not that much information you can convey. Like, because they were still fitting like a full field of 5 cards and like stuff in your hand, and you had to like press down to see text, and you know, not a fault of the games themselves, it's just product of the times, but yeah. That they all were like that, so.
Did you play the Eternal Duelist Soul?
Not much. That's the one that I don't know as much about. Do you have any experience with it?
No, I was just genuinely wondering if you played it, because I saw it on the list and I was like, I've never played this one. Yeah. But they said it was identical to Stairway to the Destined Duel. And I was like, I've heard of both those games.
I didn't get much experience with them. I do remember some of the spin-offs that they had, I think on Game Boy Advance. I know that there was Dungeon Dice Monsters.
I emulated that year. I mean, I allegedly emulated that years later.
Yeah, Dungeon Dice Monsters. I was surprised that got a game. Like, isn't that cool though that it did?
I wasn't surprised in the slightest. If you're an old like manga reader, you know that like even before they really got into like the dual monsters aspect of Yu-Gi-Oh, Capsule Monster Chess was one of the like major like arcs in the Yu-Gi-Oh manga. If I remember correctly, Mokuba was like a genius at it, and so Yugi had to like beat him at Capsule Monster Chess or die.
Well, you're talking about Capsule Monster Chess though, but I was surprised about Dungeon Dice Monsters. Just
like, it was I get them mixed up because they're similar.
They did make a Capsule Monster game,
which they did.
There was that.
I think that was actually on Game Boy, not Advance.
They made one on Game Boy, and then there's one on PS2, but the PS2 one isn't actually doing the game that they were doing in the anime. It's very weird. But I was just going to talk about Dungeon Dice Monsters.
I get them confused. Dungeon Dice Monsters, that one was a cool game.
I think that it was a cool game because even though it was kind of on a small GBA screen, it is still way easier to like digitally emulate Dungeon Dice Monsters than it is to like play it in real life. We've tried. There's a video of us trying physically. We bought the pieces if you want to watch that. But them making it in a Game Boy Advance game was really cool.
And it was a fairly honest take on the Dungeon Dice Monsters that we saw in the show. I don't remember any like crazy differences other than there were just more monsters.
Yeah, there was also Destiny Board Travelers, which was a sort of like Mario Party-esque like board game mini game.
I've never played that one.
Never played it. It did come on Early Days Collection, so I had wanted to get around to trying it out. Maybe I will, but I know that it was sort of like just a Mario Party, just a board game.
That feels like a good group stream game. You know how people will get together and they'll all just play Mario Party? Like, we should all get together and play Destiny Board Traveler. Same thing.
Yeah, same thing. I think that it would be neat though for them to remake games like this. Like one of the ongoing threads that we're probably gonna have in this whole video is that like this was kind of a period of time where Yu-Gi-Oh was beginning. They experimented with little things like alternate game modes and game styles, and this is still kind of in what I would consider the like early days, the old age.
Oh, for sure.
Because it's only gonna get better from here, but like
Better.
Like more experimental maybe is a better word for that. But these old games, I think that they were a good foundation. If you
They were definitely creative.
They were creative. If you were a kid and you had a Game Boy Advance, you can just play Yu-Gi-Oh! And like that's all they really needed to be, I would say.
And with like Yugi was characterized as someone who just liked games.
True.
And so Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games felt pretty natural. It felt like something, especially like Destiny Board Traveler, Dungeon Dice Monsters, it felt like something that might have been in Grandpa Moto's game shop.
True.
So that was just...
No, it almost felt like these games were like you were just going to the game shop and just picking up a game, like a different thing.
It felt right. At least with what Yu-Gi-Oh! Used to be. Because like, once you move past DM, there's no semblance of a game shop anymore.
Yeah, now that brings us to what I call the Middle Ages of Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games. This is kind of when we are past the Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, PS1, and we're getting into PlayStation 2, GameCube, Xbox, kind of into the Nintendo Wii later on.
So the hardware upgrades, and so the games have to change.
Yeah, so now we have like things like 3D graphics in a lot of these games. And I think that there's one game that is absolutely perfect to start this out with.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelists of the Roses.
Yeah, probably the most just beloved, I'd say, of like the old Yu-Gi-Oh! Games. I hear it talked about the most.
For me, it is.
I think it just is.
I remember Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelists of the Roses was I think the first PS2 game I had that had like the greatest hits thing on it.
I remember that. Yeah, the little red.
Never actually understood what that meant. But I was like, oh, this game's gotta be great. And it was Yu-Gi-Oh! So it couldn't fail. And I remember that was the only Yu-Gi-Oh! Video game I got like brand new, still in like the wrapping.
Yeah, which you know what, before we talk about that, speaking of still in the wrapping, all these games did come with promo cards back in the day.
That's true, that we got none of.
Yeah, I don't think I ever got a Yu-Gi-Oh! Promo card like
I didn't get one until Duelists of the Roses.
Yeah. What were the Duelists of the Roses promos? I don't remember.
It was the Magnet Warriors.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. This kind of like what would I call like Prismatic Secret essentially.
Yeah, that early Prismatic Secret. They don't make that rarity anymore, but those cards look special. I remember there were a lot of cool promos. We don't have to really go through all of them, but I do remember some powerful cards. Like Harpy's Feather Duster debuted as a promo card. I don't remember in which game it was. But like, yeah, it debuted as one. And then there were like really expensive ones like, I know Dark Duel Stories had 2 different sets of promo cards.
Oh, why does it get 2?
Yeah, I don't know. The first release of it was like Dark Magician, Blue Eyes, and Exodia, which are worth a lot today. But then the second one was like cards like Seiyaru and some other, like a Spell and a Trap that aren't really.
I'm trying to look at this list of promo cards. But the list doesn't have all the games.
Oh, it doesn't? It's kind of weird how it looks.
Or it's maybe in a different order. But like I can't find. Oh, it is in a weird order. Okay, here it is. So yeah, Dark Duel Stories had Blue Eyes White Dragon, Dark Magician, Exodia the Forbidden One, Seiyaru, Acid Trap Hole, and Salamandra.
Yeah, that was the second set of them. The one that not as many people really wanted. Although Salamandra to me would have been really cool.
I've seen that Salamandra in so many like cases and like
old
collector binders.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Salamandra, and then I've seen that Seiyaru too. They just people aren't as quick to like pick those up. So you usually see those on sale at like collector spots.
Yeah, and anyway, I guess back to Dark Duel, or to Duels of the Roses. I'm sorry for the detour.
Duels of the Roses was such an interesting Yu-Gi-Oh! Video game. It's much like Dungeon Dice Monsters or Capsule Monsters in that it's not cards. It's not card-based Yu-Gi-Oh! You're moving these kind of like chess pieces. So in that way, it's more like Capsule Monsters than it is the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. But it featured it featured many of the monsters you were familiar with, and it had a new take on a lot of the Yu-Gi-Oh characters we were familiar with.
Yeah, I do remember with my little exposure to the game, it was a reenactment of the War of the Roses.
Yeah.
An actual like historical sort of thing.
Between the Yorks and the Lancasters.
Yeah, Yugi is Henry Tudor.
And Kaiba was somebody.
Yeah, I don't remember who Kaiba was. And like, each character also kind of had like a sort of reenacted a certain character. Although a few characters I think were just themselves.
Yeah, some of them were themselves. They weren't like, I think like Joey was himself.
I know like Bakura was.
Not Joey.
Bakura was just himself. Like, I mean, I can see he was
himself.
still wearing the...
They still were on a side. Like, everybody
Yeah.
either was a red rose or a white rose, but they weren't always reprising a historical figure.
I think that the gameplay system is what stood out the most to me here because, like, it was when I finally got to play this game. I don't remember exactly when. It might have been at a friend's house. I remember just thinking it was going to be like a Yu-Gi-Oh simulator. We're just going to play the card game.
Oh, you were
And
surprised.
it was so weird that I was like, we're moving across this game board, and what determined how far the monsters was? It just like their level or something?
It was like every monster
Like
had
a
its
rating.
own like pattern that it could move in. It wasn't a simple, oh, I can move forward, back, left, or right. It's like, no, I can jump over here. I can like they had all sorts of little like different movement patterns. It was one of the ways I think they tried to like balance the game where a piece could be, I say piece because they weren't really cards,
Yeah.
but like a monster
creature.
could be really strong, but it might move in such a way that makes it awkward to use.
Yeah, and this was also the period of time where they were capable of 3D graphics. And while Yu-Gi-Oh games...
They all had models.
Yeah, and while Yu-Gi-Oh games did not use like 3D graphics excessively or anything super impressive, it was cool that all the monsters in Duels of the Roses had 3D models. And I think that they reused those 3D models in the other two games we're going to talk about, Falsebound Kingdom and Dawn of Destiny.
I mean, it makes sense. You spend all that money making them, you might as well get as much use of them as you can.
This was a period of time too where they actually could feasibly do that. Like today, there's like, 12,000 cards or something. There's no way you could even hope to have that many 3D models, right? But this was when like they could kind of selectively choose the card pool for the game.
Yep.
And a lot of it was like just vanillas that were well known, and so you knew that if you made a Beaver Warrior model or a Dark Magician Girl model or something, you'd probably be able to like reuse that across other games, and so.
Man, nobody's gonna be mad at you. But yeah, Duels of the Roses is kind of one of those beloved early kind of middle tier of Yu-Gi-Oh video games. Fun fact, I remember as a kid I beat it many times, like over and over again. But I remember trying to play it again as an adult, and I struggled like all hell with that game.
Really?
For some reason, the very first battle, I think it's against Tristan, or is it against Joey? It's either against Joey or Tristan. My very first battle, I think I had to have lost like 7 or 8 times in a row before I finally won. I don't know if I just became less tactical or dumber in my older age, but I feel like it didn't take that many tries when I was a kid.
I totally forgot to mention this, but I have a copy of Dark Duel Stories here that I brought just for the video. Cool.
You've been holding on to it.
Show and tell.
We talked about it.
Yeah, we
was
talked
like,
about it. I just completely forgot. I picked this up at a convention, and it was like no box, no case of any kind. It's like $10 or $15. I thought it'd be kind of fun.
Have you played it?
I don't have a Game Boy.
Wow.
If I had one of those like analog pockets, that'd be fun to play this.
Yeah,
on.
there's peripherals out there to make it happen.
Anyway, the next game is Falsebound Kingdom on the Nintendo GameCube. I briefly played this game. I remember seeing it at GameStop a lot, but like I said, I did not actually get many Yu-Gi-Oh video games as a kid, so I don't think that I owned this. I think I rented it once from Blockbuster. Rest in peace. And
Pull one out.
it was an RPG, if you can believe. Like, and I guess we've said like RPG before, but like it was like literally like a turn-based RPG.
And see, that's hard for me to even imagine. To be
Yeah, if you
honest.
imagine kind of like a Final Fantasy VII or something, like where they were using those same 3D models, and you would like, it'd be like 3-on-3 fights and stuff. I don't remember playing a bunch of it, but I went back and like rewatched some gameplay, and yeah, like the monsters have like moves and spells and like little formations and stuff. So that was just really cool. Like, I don't know, I thought that was awesome.
For me, I never had the Falsebound Kingdom, but I saw ads for it, and then I forgot about it until I became an adult. And then I was watching videos of it, and I'm just like, when did they do this?
It's kind of interesting. It was very easy to miss out on some of these Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games.
I did get a GameCube very late in its lifespan.
Well, also, I mean, this was just kind of that period of time, too, where they were just, like, it's almost like the THQ movie tie-in games, right? There's a Ratatouille game or whatever. It's like they were making Yu-Gi-Oh! For every platform. You know, as we'll get into later, today, like, there's just kind of one Yu-Gi-Oh! Game or whatever you just play. But, like,
It's on all of them.
this was back when, like, Xbox got its own game, GameCube got its own game, PlayStation got its own game, and, like, so your different consoles would just have, like, entirely different games. So I got to play Falsebound Kingdom, but I never got to play Duels of the Roses, like, myself, because I didn't have a PS2. And I didn't get to play Dawn of Destiny because I didn't have an Xbox. So, speaking of Dawn of Destiny, I did not get to play this game. I did do a little bit of research into it, though, and it is probably the most, like, basic of the three. Like, if we're kind of considering this a trio.
It's trash? Xbox got trash?
It's just a simulator.
Oh, okay.
It's just a sim. Like, however, one cool part, it does use those same 3D models and they do battle. So you put the cards on the board like you would normally do, but whenever there's like a battle that takes place, both models will just appear and they'll do little attack animations.
Oh, that's cool.
It's kind of cool. Like, as a kid at the time, I imagine that would have been still a really huge deal. And I think that I remember this game most fondly because the case, like the outer case of it, had Merrick on it. And that
does have Merrick on the
That
cover.
always like drew me into it. I was always like, oh man, I wish I had an Xbox. I could play the whatever games got Merrick inside. I think I thought like if I bought it, I'd get a Winged Dragon of Ra inside maybe.
What's cool is, now I don't know if the games up until this point did it, but this game actually had a forbidden and limited list.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know when exactly they started incorporating that into the games, but it probably would have been around this time.
Because, it says forbidden limited list, but it's really just a limited list because there were no forbidden cards.
Okay, fair. Because like, why would there be a forbidden card in a game? That,
You just
like, why would
wouldn't-
they code it in?
You just wouldn't code it in.
That's true.
But like some of the limited cards I feel like are only limited for flavor. So
Like
there are
what?
there's certain cards in here limited makes sense. Sangan, Witch of the Black Forest, each part of Exodia, right?
Of course.
These cards all make sense limited. Blackluster Soldier is limited too.
Yeah, I was definitely playing on running 3.
Like Delinquent Duo is limited, Raigeki is limited, Feather Duster is limited.
So those make sense. I just don't know what they're
so
thinking
many
with Blackluster Soldier.
but then like Magic Cylinder is also limited.
Well, I feel like in a video game setting, it can be kind of busted.
I mean, it could be good. I just don't see.
I wonder if this is a 4,000 or an 8,000 life point game.
It doesn't
Probably
say.
8,000.
But there's so many legitimate cards that definitely need to be on somebody's ban list here. And then you just like, oh yeah, but also Blackluster Soldier and Magic Cylinder. We got them, boys.
Weird.
Mage Power's on here too.
Now that was kind of the games of the whatever it was, like a 5th generation of game consoles, I think in general. The next game is one that I'm very excited to talk about though, and that is
Ooh, is it the one on the Wii?
yes, the Nintendo Wii got
The
2 different
Wii-
Yu-Gi-Oh games.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Wheelie Breakers.
Yes,
Get it?
Yu-Gi-Oh
'Cause
5Ds.
it's on the Wii.
Wii. I wish they spelled it like that.
They should have.
They should have. That would have been fun. This is a card games on motorcycles, Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds racing game.
Like they took it literally. They were like, "Look, they're on motorcycles for a reason, right?" And they're like, "No, they just duel." Well, in this game, they're on the motorcycles for a reason.
Yeah, it was actually really cool. So basically, like, you were playing sort of a kart racer-esque game, but you were also playing cards. And so they repurposed a lot of the monsters and spells and traps to be, like, spells were, I guess, just sort of like things you could use to augment yourself. Traps were like traps you'd throw at your opponent on the track.
Yep.
And then monsters, you'd summon them and they would like float beside you like they do in Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds.
It was kind of like an augmented like turbo duel system where
Yes.
you like your speed was dictated by
Yeah, you'd like build speed. And
by
if
like
you-
your was it by your
you
life
got, like,
points,
speed points
or
or
your
something.
damage? It's been some years now. Forgive us.
We did do a Let's Play of this game on this channel, by the way.
Don't watch it because I can't be held responsible for what I said in it.
Yeah, it's been many years. It was fun. I say fun. The game controlled kind of like crap.
Oh yeah, the game was just hitting wall after wall after wall.
Yeah,
after wall.
the car or motorcycles or whatever, the dual runners were very clunky. You actually had to win duels to not only get more like useful cards, but also to improve your stats of your machine. Because at first it controls badly and slow and whatever, it can't turn, and so you have to like earn the right to better control.
And then by the end of it, it still controls bad, but now you're faster. So
yeah, it doesn't get like loads better. It was an interesting game though, because like I remember Rush Recklessly, for instance, was like kind of a mushroom in Mario Kart, like it sped you up.
I remember the that one kind of wall card that it would just block the opponent.
Oh yeah,
like
Wall of Thorns.
Wall of Thorns, that's it.
I remember Sonic Chick also had sort of the similar ability to what it has, where like it can't be destroyed by high attack monsters, anything with over 1900 or something. So it was like a good little defensive thing.
I like Sonic Chick because like thematically it's supposed to be able to run fast, and you're on a dual runner. It's running with.
And it would always run with you, say when you'd use it in the show. But they had boss monsters. They had Goyo Guardian. They had Stardust Dragon.
Like Red Dragon was in it.
They had a story mode too. Which another thing that a lot of these old games had was like a story mode where they would typically use the Yu-Gi-Oh characters, but like in a somewhat reimagined story, some alternate retelling of an arc or something like that. And this game even had multiplayer, so you could actually, I think, do split screen Mario Kart style dueling.
Did we do the multiplayer?
I think we didn't.
I don't think we had more than one controller.
Yeah, we only had one controller when we were doing this. Kind of a shame.
We were broke college students.
The Wii also did get another game, which was Duel Trancer. Now this one, it's not quite as exciting because it's another card game sim. But I remember that it was like,
I mean, for me, it was kind of my first.
It was the first kind of what you call like a modern card game sim.
Yeah, I mean, it was automated Yu-Gi-Oh. At that point, Yu-Gi-Oh had never been automated for me. So while it was a limited card pool, it was fun. You know, playing through the Yu-Gi-Oh story, but
it was like, I remember it was like Yggdrasil. It was like this big tower that you had to like kind of climb up, and the tower would have like spaces. And so you'd roll a die and move spaces, and like some spaces would have rewards, some would have people who would duel you, some would maybe have like traps or something like that. So even though it was like a simulator, it was pretty engaging. We did a Let's Play of this as well, actually, if you are feeling up to hearing whatever crazy things we might have been saying back then.
We're probably more than cancel worthy in those Let's Plays.
Yeah, maybe don't go watch them. But yeah, these were interesting games. Like, I think that the Wii was a game, it was a console that so many people had that it kind of like, they had to get some Yu-Gi-Oh on there.
Got to.
And they had like creative stuff. And I think that console-wise, that's kind of the middle era of Yu-Gi-Oh games. However, there were handheld ones as well. So you had a DS or PSP, which
I had a DS and a PSP.
Yeah, I had a DS.
Ask me how many Yu-Gi-Oh games I had on them.
All of them, right?
None.
Yeah, I had a DS and I eventually did have a PSP. I did not play any of the Yu-Gi-Oh games on them, unfortunately. At least I did not own copies. But they did make a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh games for these.
Is another one of situations where I didn't see them at GameStop, so I didn't buy them. It was I just never saw them.
Yeah, they didn't show up a lot there. I do remember on DS, they were kind of just continuing with the World Championship line of games. They would make one each year. That actually started like on the GBA, like in 2004. But you know, this was kind of when I think I started to notice that they were making these games, because they would make them continue with the anime. So like there's like 5D's World Championship 2009 and 10, and then like they switched to Zexal, I think in like 2011. So
didn't even know they went that far.
Yeah, so there were games like that. I remember
the Tag Force series on PSP, not because I played them, but because they were always in my Shonen Jump magazines, and I was mad because I couldn't play them.
Yeah, okay, so I have a funny story actually about the Tag Force games. I did have a friend who, he was like a just competitive kind of TCG type, and he like hacked, you know, homebrew, whatever, jailbroke his PSP, where he could put like cheats and stuff in these games. And so he would have like whatever the most recent Tag Force game was, and he would use that cheat to have like 99 of all the cards or whatever. And he would use it for playtesting. So he would build his like real life decks in there, at least as much as the game would let you. And he would actually like use it to just kind of idly playtest against the CPUs and do test hands. And so that was kind of cool. Just a neat thing.
I don't think I was at a point where I would take Yu-Gi-Oh that seriously back then.
Yeah, oh yeah, this is when they started adding subtitles, like Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's World Championship 2009, Stardust Accelerator, and then 2010, Reverse of Arcadia.
See, they kind of sound like they're like Yu-Gi-Oh! Set names.
And then 2011, Over the Nexus. So, kind of cool. Weird one, by the way, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Card Almanac.
Oh, the kind of encyclopedia one.
Yeah, this was like a game that was just...
Game,
yeah. That was literally just kind of there to teach. Like, it was just like a repository. You could look up card effects. It was a calculator.
It's like if the Yu-Gi-Oh! Database, or like, oh, I know. It's like if Yu-Gi-Oh! Neuron was on a game cartridge,
but you know,
for that time.
Like, even though we look back at it kind of, you know, haughtily, I do think that this could be a cool thing for a kid to have. Like, at the time, you're kind of into Yu-Gi-Oh! You know, you're like in middle school. You probably don't have access to the internet. Like, you know, I wouldn't have had it. In like 2007, I didn't have access to the internet readily anyway. So like something like this, assuming it maybe only costs like 10 or 15 bucks. I don't know the price, so you know, that could be nice to have on hand. Like, how much was Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Card Almanac from 2000 and I'm assuming like 2007, something like that. It's just like, it'd be kind of cool to have, and if nothing else, having a dual calculator to use when you.
I found one on eBay for $30.
Okay, so it probably came out at like 10 bucks. It's just an almanac, so maybe it was free. Who knows?
Oh, it came with promos.
Oh.
Ooh.
What were the promos?
Okay,
I'm actually very curious about that.
Now this is in Japanese, so I can only kind of guess at what the cards are. But I'm at Blizzard Dragon.
Okay.
This looks like a Violon? I can't tell what that is.
Yeah, I don't know the other two.
And this one's some type of like a Mosquito Knight type
situation.
situation.
I remember this Mosquito card. I don't remember the name of it, but yeah, okay. So yeah, DS and PSP had cards, and that kind of closes out, I'd say, the middle area of these. Oh wait, one last thing I want to mention. Actually, we can edit, I'll probably edit this into the part about the Tag Force games. A cool part about the Tag Force games was that you did get to talk to characters and have relationships with them. Ooh. Now, not in the like, you know, romantic, like you're dating them way, but they could like or dislike you more or less. I remember, because it was called Tag Force, you actually would pick a tag partner.
Right.
And so that partner would do like tag duels with you. Mm-hmm. And so like you might want to befriend Zane because like you can get cool cards from like, you know, being his tag partner.
I would have befriended Alexis quick.
Okay. But she probably had like these exclusive things you could only get. So like Blade Skater or something like that. Anyway, that concludes more or less
the video.
What I'd call the Middle Ages of, oh, we've got a long way to go. Or maybe not so long. That concludes the Middle Ages of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games. These, how would you encapsulate the Middle Ages of the games, the middle era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Games? Because things are about to change a little from here.
It was a leap graphically. You know, in hindsight, the games are ugly, but there was still quite a bit of creativity in those games. I would say that this was probably Yu-Gi-Oh!'s peak in my mind.
I agree. I think that this was the time when they were the most willing to explore genres and just like show that like Yu-Gi-Oh! Can dabble in a little bit of racing, dabble in a little bit of like a different type of board game. It can be in like a turn-based RPG.
Should have made a fighting game.
I'm surprised they never tried it. Although I guess Yu-Gi did eventually, like, they were like Jump Force.
Yeah, they were like the
appearances.
The jump games.
So that's something. But yeah, like, now we get into the new age of games. And things, as I've alluded to, take a bit of a turn here. Not entirely for the worse.
I just think that at this point, Konami had found a formula they like.
Mm-hmm. What's that formula?
I mean, I feel like it was based off of like Dual Transer and probably some of the successes off Tag Force. They realized that Yu-Gi-Oh! Players just kind of want to play cards.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point where I guess they turned a lot of these games into more duel simulators. A trend that I noticed too is this started with 5D's Decade Duels, and then they made like Decade Duels Plus. These were games that were like on the Xbox Live Arcade and PSN Arcade. Mm-hmm. There was Millennium Duels and eventually Legacy of the Duelist. And what a lot of these games would be is basically they would reenact anime scenes. They kind of play out like, I guess, what do you call it, like a visual novel type of thing where the character just
You just go through
Shows
the
up and does dialogue.
Yu-Gi-Oh story between duel. You know, you play story, you play story, you play story.
Yeah, the characters would talk and kind of reenact a scene, and then you duel them in a scripted sort of duel from like what the show would have. So these could be really cool because it would be like, oh, you're doing like the Yugi versus Strings duel or something kind of iconic from.
You go all the way from DM to Zexal.
Yeah, and we did Let's Plays of
eventually
some of
to
these
art.
games. I remember.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. We played.
I know
we played Millennium and Legacy of the Duelist.
Yeah.
I
We might have done something with Decade Duels.
Don't remember if we played Decade. That's the one.
They're all very similar and they all run together, which is actually kind of part of my complaint with them, is that this is sort of the point where I think that these video games almost reverted back to what the Game Boy Color games were.
I mean, they didn't do nearly as many like 3D models in those games.
Yeah, most didn't have any.
I think maybe your Ace
Sometimes
Monsters
there's
still
some
had
summoning
them. Like
animations
Dark
for the Ace
Magician,
monsters,
Blue Eyes.
Neos
Certain
and
Aces
stuff.
had them, but the vast majority of your monsters, they just got like a kind of an icon.
Yeah, it was much more straightforward. Also, these engines could sometimes be really slow. Like resolving certain cards that would have to like shuffle things back in from the grave, or like Pot of Desires. I remember on maybe Legacy of the Duelist would like banish the top 10 one by one, and it would just take forever. And like so these games, I don't want to just bash them because they did have some cool stuff. A lot of them did have multiplayer, like online multiplayer. So that was sort of a first for some of this, like these Yu-Gi-Oh games didn't really always have online play.
I mean, especially since time has been moving forward. You might not believe it, but time moves forward, and so people were becoming more insular in their gaming habits. No longer were you meeting up with all your friends to play in front of the TV with like 4 controllers plugged up to whatever your game console was. Now at this point we're starting to silo off and play by ourselves in our dorm rooms, eating some hot wings. So like multiplayer Yu-Gi-Oh video games.
Yeah,
makes
it's a
sense.
very like wide world, and so being able to play like that's cool. These games, I think they also, to varying degrees, they would have like draft modes. I think Legacy of the Duelist had like Battle Pack draft.
That was my favorite part of Legacy.
Yeah, we could do, I think you had to like spin gems or whatever the in-game currency was, and you get a draft pack, and you get to do like 5 or 10 duels with it, and then you get a new one. Which, in my opinion, is how like draft should pretty much always work. Like, it's just, you get your draft sets, you get a limited amount of duels, and you get a new set. And like, you do it all over again.
I think that was their way of adding replayability into a game that technically you could just finish. Like, once you played through all the duels.
Legacy of the Duelist, I think, had the reverse duels.
Yeah.
That was cool. So you did the very long campaign. It was a lengthy campaign of duels. And then you could go back and do all the duels from the opposite end. So you'd be the other character.
Cool, or just repeating what you've already done? Not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that a lot of kids probably imagine is like, what if I was one of the antagonists for a change? But also, I think a lot of those duels were not like designed to be played from the other side, if that sort of makes sense. So like some of them would. Anyway.
I remember in our Let's Play of Legacy the Duelist, I think we did do the reverse duels in the Let's Play.
Yeah, which, God.
That took a while.
A lot of time on our hands. So yeah, that's kind of the situation they found themselves in. I think they found a formula that they liked, and that leads us to the first of, I guess, the current
truly
lineup.
Modern games.
Yes.
Because back in 2016, someone from Konami, they were looking at the mobile game sphere, and they said, we want a piece of that, and I know how we're gonna do it. We're gonna lean into nostalgia. Hence, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links.
With no monsters left in the field, I'll summon Dark Magician. Declare direct attack.
Duel Links was a phenomenon.
Do you remember, it actually felt like Yu-Gi-Oh! Was kind of back for a lot of people at the time.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links was an accessible entry into the Yu-Gi-Oh! franchise that we had not had in quite a while. Why? Because Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links did not ask you to know anything about modern Yu-Gi-Oh! It heavily relied on the characters of the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime, GX, 5Ds, They were character focused. They had a simplified rule set and board design where
It was perfect for the mobile phone screen, actually.
all you needed was your thumb.
Yeah, because like you're designing for the phone, it's a much more vertical layout. So they actually literally slimmed down the field, like 3 monster zones, 3 spell traps, half life points.
Yep.
So that I think it was designed to, and even smaller hand sizes. So like you could get in faster duels, and that way you can play it on a commute, or you can play it, in a little bit of downtime and fit in a lot of fast games. Something that was also cool with Duel Links, the production values were like really high.
Duel Links was so clean. The UI, Duel Links
Felt very
was
alive.
probably a perfect mobile game if such a thing could exist. I mean, there are definitely kind of downsides to the game, but as far as like if you design a mobile game, it doesn't get a lot better than Duel Links.
I agree. They even brought in the voice actors,
Yeah.
which is a huge deal. I think that's the first time a Yu-Gi-Oh video game had ever actually had voice acting for the characters. Like,
And more so
Dan
than
Green,
just
Eric
any voice
Stewart.
actors, they had the real ones.
yeah, they had all the original ones at least they were capable of getting, and like that added a lot to the game. I
Agreed.
think. Also, skill cards were super cool.
Yes, another thing.
Or I guess they were just skills.
Yeah, in Duel Links, there are skills essentially allowing you to use some of your more niche but favorite anime cards and like strategies, and the skills just force them to work.
Yeah, it'd be just ways of kind of more quickly getting out the weird old Pumpkin or Blackluster Soldier or whatever. And I thought that was a really cool thing. I know they later went on to add a lot more like worlds and stuff from future animes. Like at the first anniversary, it was like when they started adding in GX and then 5Ds and stuff like that.
They went all the way into Rush Duels, which is a Japanese-only thing.
Yeah.
But at some point, I mean, you guys know the Yu-Gi-Oh anime kind of stopped happening, so they needed to find content from somewhere.
Now, something I will say about Duel Links, and I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing, but I have heard that like the monetization system can be a little rough, because I think this was like the first time that a Yu-Gi-Oh game had like a real microtransaction thing. There were microtransactions in some of the PS3 and Xbox games, like you could buy like packs or something. Nothing like what Duel Links had though.
No, Duel Links had $99 packages. I say
Duel Links
had,
was
it has.
like live service.
You could spend real money on Duel Links just trying to finish a deck to play with.
And new things were constantly coming out. It was being updated, so there was always like a new set. Something I liked about that though was like, because you played a lot more Duel Links than me, and I remember you would always tell me about like, when a new set would have like a staple that by modern standards was like not, why are you excited about this? But you'd be like, oh yeah, this set has enemy controller in it, that's like a huge
that
deal.
card goes crazy.
Or whatever. So like anytime they'd introduce little staples, I thought that was...
Because I mean, it had a limited card set, so sometimes like cards that aren't normally good were just fire.
Yeah. I remember there was actually a little running joke in the Yu-Gi-Oh community at the time about like archetypes being designed for Duel Links. So whenever like they would make like Konami would release like a bad archetype in the TCG, people would be like, oh, they just made that to put into Duel Links. Which I don't think is true.
It's not true, but it was funny that at one point like vampires were a very meta deck in Duel Links.
Yeah, for hire, vampires, a lot of those things, people are just like, oh, it's bad, it's garbage, so you just put it in Duel Links. But Duel Links was very successful, and I think that when it came out, the one thing that people wanted the most was, can we have this, but for the master rules of Yu-Gi-Oh! The full 5-card like board and the life points and the current card pool and none of the skill stuff. And eventually...
Well, they were like, oh, you want the master rules? We'll make Master Duel.
Yes, I remember when this was first announced. It was actually at an event that they'd called the Yu-Gi-Oh! Digital Next event. Do you remember this?
I do remember the Yu-Gi-Oh! Digital Next.
Yeah, they announced Master Duel and another game we'll get to here in a moment. But Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. There's so much to say about this game. I'm trying to hold myself back from just blabbing about it. But I do remember there was a lot of hype for this.
I mean, Master Duel was promises to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community. It said, this is real Yu-Gi-Oh! This is an official Yu-Gi-Oh! Simulator. At that point, we had many fan-made simulators that kept getting taken down and they weren't allowed. It was a whole thing.
Yeah, Master Duel was like this is going to be the thing.
Konami stamp of approval. From the little bit that we'd seen, it looked clean.
I remember there was a lot of questions leading up to the release, like, how much is it going to cost? Is it going to be like a subscription thing? As it turns out, the game is just a live service game, really.
Live service, free to play.
Free to play, gacha style game. Looks amazing, sounds amazing. I cannot say enough about the cool summon animations. I cannot say enough about the music of this game. I dote on the soundtrack of Master Duel all the time.
If up until this point, a person's own major criticism with Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games was that they aren't like the TCG, Master Duel is the closest we've ever gotten to actually ending that problem.
Yeah, a clean...
Close, though.
Yeah, close. A clean, fast engine. It follows all the rules. There's, online mode and different stuff. But the word close is apt because there were things missing from Master Duel that have never really fully been, I guess, accounted for.
Right.
Like, the game still runs a little bit behind the card release schedule for the TCG and the OCG. About 6 months.
So, you gotta remember, the TCG gets cards almost half a year after the OCG.
Yeah,
and then Master Duel would lag behind even that sometimes.
Yeah, and also they'll release them in different orders too.
Yeah.
So not everything in a set will come in the same order in Master Duel.
Because they don't use our sets. They have Master Duel specific sets.
So that I remember was kind of a point of contention for people. Also the fact that it had its own ban list effectively meant that Master Duel is running a totally just different, unique format.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people wanted Master Duel, at least the time it released, to be like a TCG companion. I can use this to build decks and test them for real events and, maybe it'll turn into an esport and all of these things. And that just didn't happen. And then you also add on to the fact that it's only best of one. That was a huge talking point. It was
I don't think the best of one thing was such a problem. People were talking about it. Well, it can be an esport. Well, best of ones actually helped it along in making its way into the Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championships. If Master Duel games took much longer, it becomes harder to act because Konami wasn't going to create an entirely new circuit for Master Duel that was unrealistic. But Master Duel was fairly easy to integrate into the system they already use for the World Championships. They just had to add some, get some tech, add it here. The games didn't take that long.
Yeah, I will say.
In fact, they gave us team-based tournaments, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that best of one also made a lot of sense for just because it's still like a sort of a mobile game. You can still play it on your phone. So I think that having best of 3 with siding. Games would just be taking upwards of 40, 50 minutes, and that's too much to ask someone to be able to really play during a break at work or a commute. So
I will say,
should have been an option though.
Master Duel may not have had true modern Yu-Gi-Oh as we know it because it's always behind. It definitely had some of the hallmarks of it.
Yeah, that's so true. In fact, I have a whole mini rant about this. I think it's even worse because, so I remember when Master Duel came out, it released into a format with Prank Kids and Eldritch and Adam Emancipators, which at the time were just obscenely strong long combo decks. And even though it eventually hit those decks and stuff, it's never really recovered from that reputation of being a coin flip simulator. Because
you lose the coin flip and then you watch your opponent play
for 10 minutes. And the thing is, unlike these old Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games where there was kind of a single player story campaign thing, Master doesn't really have that. It's got these solo mode things, but
how many duels would you say those gates are?
There'll be
5?
There'll be 4 or 5 duels, and most of them are half duels. It'll literally start you in the middle of a duel and just gonna do. You're supposed to just get the rewards and never look at them again. And the only real mode that Master Duel's got is online ladder. That's kind of it. And the online ladder is highly competitive and people are playing the best things. And so I think what ended up happening with Master Duel is that when it came out, it was huge and everyone's playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And it was cool. I remember content creators from outside the regular Yu-Gi-Oh! Space were getting into Master Duel and playing it. Ludwig, Moist Critical, a lot of people.
A host of VTubers.
But if you're just a regular Master Duel player, you will quickly kind of run up against that wall that is, You're just playing a ranked ladder and, coin flips, hand traps, maxi.
Match Duel got sweaty.
Yeah, it's a sweaty experience, and unlike Duel Links, there's no anime element to it. No characters from the anime are really showing up.
You've got
no
monsters,
voice
spells,
acting.
and traps.
And I think that does kind of lead me to the thesis almost of this entire discussion for me, which is that as much as I like Master Duel and I play Master Duel, I don't see it as a video game.
I've been saying it for the longest that Master Duel isn't a video game as we define them as children. It's a simulator. It's as much a video game as Chess Simulator is.
Yeah, and it's also live service, and Duel Links is live service too. But I give Duel Links more of a pass because it has cool anime elements and worlds and stuff. It still feels like a Yu-Gi-Oh thing. I think that when you're just playing a simulator, you do lose out on some of the fun that those older games that we talked about had, where we're not experimenting with different game styles. We're not, in the War of the Roses or whatever. We're just kind of logging in and playing Yu-Gi-Oh.
You're a player icon in the name, and time to just load up your next match in gold or platinum, wherever you're seated currently.
And speaking of, they did try one last time.
Because, Master Duel wasn't the only game that was announced at the Digital Next. They also announced, and this was the game I was more excited for at that time, Yu-Gi-Oh! Cross Duel.
Yes.
It will be our second entry into the mobile market. And at the time, when it was first announced, all they told us was that it was going to be a Yu-Gi-Oh! Battle Royale style
I love
game.
the way they teased this game. I love that they showed just the logo at first, the little 4-panel logo, and left it up to our imagination. Because people were like, is it going to be Battle Royale dueling? Is it going to be
Tag duels.
Tag duel 2v2? What's it going to be? And it turned out it was
None of those.
not really any of those things. It was how would you describe this?
Oh, it's so crazy. Cross Duel was a battle royale, but I wouldn't necessarily call it Yu-Gi-Oh! It was a reimagining of what a Yu-Gi-Oh! Game could have been
Your
with
monsters,
4 different players.
Yeah, you had lanes, a big board with different lanes, and your monsters would move across the board to attack other
A
monsters and try to get to the center and then eventually get to a person. And I'm obviously simplifying this, but all the spells and the traps had totally different effects in this game. Monsters would start out with no effects, I remember, and you would equip them, level them up and give them skills and stuff.
It was a crazy time. Cards like Stardust Dragon, when you would get it, it was a vanilla card. It was a vanilla Stardust Dragon that you would tribute 2 monsters to summon. But you could get a second copy of Stardust and then kind of limit break it. And now it's a synchro monster where if you have the appropriate tuner and non-tuner, you can synchro summon into the Stardust.
And I remember you could attach effects to it and stuff. That was a kind of a thing.
there was some customization you could have with your monsters. It was a very interesting game. Just to quickly describe the gameplay system, basically you had 3 lanes. Each lane led to a different opponent. If you played a monster on that lane, it moved across that lane, and if it made it to that opponent, it would attack them directly. So the 4 players would try to send monsters to the different lanes. If monsters met up, they would immediately battle. The monsters, they had attack and they had essentially health. Basically, you would just kind of keep hitting their health until they died.
I remember after a battle, even if my 1400 Celtic Guardian attacks a Blue Eyes, it would lose and be destroyed, but the Blue Eyes would lose 1400.
Yes.
It kind of reminds me vaguely of Dungeon Dice Monsters, because there were some similar elements there, in a abstract sense. I thought it was actually a really cool game because it used a lot of updated 3D models for the monsters.
Oh yeah.
That was cool.
The game, it wasn't just limited to 4-way battles like against other players. There were also raids where
cool.
there would be let's take a monarch, Mobius is in the middle of the screen.
I remember the first one they did, there was actually a Rise of the Storm Monarch event.
Yeah.
And there was they wanted people, it was during the pre-sign-ups or whatever, pre-registration for the game. Anyway, yeah.
But yeah, then you and 3 other people would team up to try and take down this monarch and reap the rewards from doing so.
Which is so cool. There was 2v2 modes, A little known fact about this game too is that it had a mode where like you would like pick companions and like develop kind of a little
Yep, just like Tag Force.
like the Tag Force game to kind of develop a relationship with them. You actually get some really unique voice lines that were voice acted because again, this game had voice acting, and not only voice acting, even the character models would kind of have that like live 2D look to them.
Yep.
Where they were kind of sort of animated. So a lot went into this game,
But I stopped playing
and eventually you would have been forced to stop playing.
because the game was sunset, and honestly, not that long after
It made it
release,
1 year.
and that was kind of
Like
it.
just 1 year. It came out in like September 2022 and was sunset in like September 2023.
In a sense, you could think of Cross Duel as the first Yu-Gi-Oh game to be sunset, since that it was the only like true. There's only two other truly live service Yu-Gi-Oh video games, and both Master Duel and Duel Links are still here to this day.
Yeah, they're not going anywhere.
But
anytime
Cross
soon.
Duel was experimental, and it ran into certain issues.
What do you think was like? Why didn't this game catch on?
I've got two.
Okay.
The number one thing, Duel Links already existed, and so a lot of like Yu-Gi-Oh fans who wanted a mobile Yu-Gi-Oh game, they were already playing Duel Links. So if they played Cross Duel at all, it would be to a much lesser degree than their primary game in Duel Links.
Right.
My number two thing, and this is more personal for me, but I think it transferred to others. It wasn't a cheaper game to play than Duel Links.
Yeah, I think that adding up, like having like two different just games that are both doing the microtransactions thing.
It was to me it felt inhumane.
I heard the pull rates on it were rough too.
Oh, it was hard, it was terrible. But all gacha game pull rates are terrible. But I remember I said your ace monster was vanilla until you were able to limit break it and turn it into its actual class. Well, that means you had to pull like more than one copy.
I
of a
remember
card.
that. Yeah. I also remember like there was just this one small detail I remember about this game. A 10 pull was like slightly more than 1,000 gems, and in this game only. Like in Master Duel, like a 10 pull is like 1,000 gems. In this game, it was like 1,200 for some reason. Just these little. It was very like you could tell out the gate they were like, okay, we think this game's experimental and it's probably not going to really be that popular. So we're gonna like really juice this monetization.
I mean, they were using what I would call modern like mobile gacha game tactics, and I was already playing Duel Links like many other people, and it's like I can't
it's just too
be
much.
invested in two different Yu-Gi-Oh mobile games.
Imagine playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, Master Duel, and Cross Duel.
Mission Impossible.
No, even outside of all of just the monetization stuff, I think that this game just like it didn't quite land with its audience. I feel like it wasn't ever able to like find its people because it was sort of tough to explain what it was to a Yu-Gi-Oh player. And I think like we're talking kind of a core existing player, and they might try this game out and like all the cards have different effects, and so it doesn't really resemble what you're used to, which like that's not inherently bad on its own, but who is this game for? I don't think that they were ever quite able to. I think there's a person. I don't think they were able to find that person.
I think the issue they might have had was they were looking for that person within the already Yu-Gi-Oh game playing community, and I think that those people that market were outside of our current Yu-Gi-Oh game playing community.
And they probably already had like their own mobile games they liked.
But they might have been willing to drop them for Yu-Gi-Oh, but they didn't hear about it.
The marketing for this game was weird. And I remember like the commercials were kind of strange. It just didn't land. And you know what's sad about this is, like you said, it's the first time a Yu-Gi-Oh game's really been sunset, and that means that you can't play Cross Duel.
No,
anymore.
It was a free-to-play live service title. No one owned Cross Duel.
Yeah, you can't like
when it shut
log
down.
in.
That was it.
There are some fan projects that people have that I've seen to like kind of bring it back, but it is very unstable. Performance is not good.
And if you tell Konami, they will get a cease and desist.
A lot of events don't work, and yeah, I think they have to kind of keep it hush hush in like a Discord server. But yeah, that was Cross Duel, and I think that the worst takeaway from that, in keeping with the thesis of this video, is I think that showed Konami, if you try to experiment,
if you try to be creative,
this might be what happens. Is
you will waste your time and money,
and people won't buy in. And I don't think that's like the player's fault. I still think this game could have been better maybe if it wasn't a live service game. If it was just a game that you paid $9.99 and downloaded once and on Steam or something, it could have had a better life in that way. But
time has been moving forward. We've moved into an age where gaming companies, they're less willing to take on risk. They are very quick to learn from their mistakes, but it's not always the lesson you'd want them to learn.
Yeah, usually the lesson they learn is just continue playing it safe.
Yep, just keep selling them what they've already bought into, and don't try anything new.
Speaking of that, the most recently released Yu-Gi-Oh game is Yu-Gi-Oh! Early Days Collection, which kind of brings this all full circle because Early Days Collection is quite literally exactly what it sounds like. It is just a compilation of all of the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games.
It also included many of the Japanese-only titles that we never got to play.
Now, I remember when this was announced, people were kind of excited about it.
I was.
It came out, though, and I remember that opinions shifted pretty fast for two reasons. First of all, it's $50 in release, which
is kind of a lot.
It's kind of a lot for the types of games that you're getting with this, because those old Yu-Gi-Oh games, they're very samey. They're very grindy, and is there really a difference between playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Expert Duelist 2 and Yu-Gi-Oh! Expert Duelist 3 and Yu-Gi-Oh! Expert Duelist 4 when they're all kind of share similar card pools, and each time you start a new one, they start you back at the beginning. I think a lot of people found out these old games don't have that much substance to them.
Not when you especially have their direct sequels in the same package.
Yeah, it kind of makes you just like, what's the point of playing this one?
It reminds me, because Capcom's always been good for making those mega collection style games where they just re-release a bunch of their old stuff together. What I usually find is you find like two, 3 titles in those, and you play them, and you kind of leave all the rest of them.
Yeah, I think it at least works better in the case of something like Street Fighter, though, where like each Street Fighter is sort of known for maybe specific mechanics and stuff and metagames, whereas in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's just like, again, there's just no reason to play like a game and its sequel and its sequel and its sequel and its sequel when they're all just using the same system. Now, this game did add a couple of quality of life things. You could use cheat codes to just like get all the cards in the game.
Eliminate some of that grind.
So, but then it's like, well, am I having fun?
For some of those games, getting the cards is the entire point of them. So if you did that, then...
They also eventually added online modes for several of the games. So that was kind of cool. I remember I did a video with Simo and Distant Coder and a few others where we tried to do a Dungeon Dice Monsters tournament. The online was very unstable and did not work. So...
What a shame.
Kind of a shame. But speaking of, this did include Dungeon Dice Monsters and it did include Destiny Board Travelers. And I would say that trying those games out, like the kind of more different Game Boy Advance games, is like, there's something to be said there.
I think they are worth buying like an Early Days collection for. However, this is more of an opinion than a fact. I feel like maybe if it was priced closer to $40,
I think that
I could have made my peace better with it.
Like 30.
Like, okay, you just want them to sell it at a loss?
A loss of these recompiled old Game Boy games.
They had to design a new box and packages that you bought digitally.
Yeah, say that you bought digitally. However, it did come with Harpy's Feather Duster. If you bought it physically, crazy enough to buy Yu-Gi-Oh! Early Days Collection physically, you did get a Harpy's Feather Duster, and it was one of 2 different arts: the original game art or the kind of art that's mostly used for it. So.
A nice callback to like the old days of Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games.
All right, quick speed run of the Miscellaneous games. There's not as much to say about these. I don't think that we played as many of these, but I do have them listed.
We barely played the ones we talked about.
So there were some PC games and some mobile games. I assume that you maybe played 1 or 2 of these mobile games because you were kind of more into mobile stuff than me. But the PC games, there was the Yu-Gi-Oh! Online games. I didn't get to play these. However, I did do a little bit of research on them for a short that I did some months back. These were games you'd get it on a CD. You would install it on your computer. Do you remember those days?
Oh, I remember installing games on my computer. Trying to install games on my mom and dad's computer.
Yeah, so this was fun because you actually made an avatar in this old Yu-Gi-Oh! Game. You make an avatar. Now here's the problem though. This was like live service before live service.
Oh yeah.
You had to pay to duel, Alec. Like, we're not even talking like pay to get some packs and some cards. Like, a duel cost you whatever the little token system was, like BP or something, or DP, duel points. You get like 10 duels on the disc. And once you've done 10 duels, you got to buy more duels from the store with like a duel card pack or something. I don't know how much these cost or whatever. I think they were maybe like $10 and it would get you like, 50 more duels or 100 more duels. But it's pretty rough. And also the grinding in this game, very slow, allegedly. Like you get one card for like winning a duel.
Well, because they have to give you a reason to keep dueling and then to keep buying duel tokens, silly. Like, I remember those early good days of like PC gaming because I had an aunt who had a fairly modern computer, and she would buy all those old computer games, and many of them they had systems just like that where you could install it, you could play a good bit of it, and then you hit a paywall, and it's like, wait, so I can't do anything else now? Yeah. And it's like I was like, hey, can you put your credit card in here? No, okay.
Yeah, they did update this to a GX version called Duel Evolution, and then eventually a 5Ds version called Duel Accelerator, and then it shut down in 2012. And that's pretty much the story of Yu-Gi-Oh! Online. The last neat fun fact I know about it is I think that the engine that was used in this game was ripped and used to create Wygo Pro by fans.
That's hilarious.
So that's your Yu-Gi-Oh! Online thing. The next game is the Power of Chaos Trio. So these were these games, I remember reading about these in Beckett magazines or something, or maybe like Shonen Jump or something like that.
I gotta see the art to remember.
Yeah, look up the Power of Chaos games. There were 3 of them. Yugi the Destiny, Kaiba the Revenge, and Joey the Passion.
They definitely... See, Joey the Passion sounds so familiar to me.
Yeah, I didn't have these as a kid. Like I said, I remember reading about them, but all they were there were also PC games that you bought on a disc and installed, and they were tutorial games. So they actually went... Yeah, they were supposed to teach you Yu-Gi-Oh!, and they went in ascending order. So weirdly enough, Yugi the Destiny is the first game, and it just teaches you the basics. Mm-hmm. Just teaches you basic combos, kind of a fairly small card pool. You can build decks and like play, but that's it. Did you pull it up? I don't know.
I was trying to find screenshots to like catch sugar my memory.
And then there was Kaiba the Revenge, which was the second game, and it kind of teaches you more advanced combos and strategies.
Oh, I remember this. I had a disc.
You had one of these?
Yes, I had a disc. Did not have a computer.
How'd you get the disc?
I don't even remember.
Just okay. And then Joey the Passion had the largest card pool, and it allowed you to like duel against different NPCs and like set stuff up like that.
So back then we had a family computer, and it was a Systemax.
Oh gosh, I don't even know what that is.
I'm pretty sure that computer was older than I was.
I remember I had a Gateway.
That computer, we were not allowed to do anything to it because it always seemed like it was about to die. So we had a few computer games that we never got to play.
Yeah, these 3 games, like I said, never got them. I don't even know how you bought. Like, I don't know if there were things you could buy like normally, or if it came. I don't know. But that's the Yu-Gi-Oh! Power of Chaos Trio. The only other notable thing about them is that they did each come with promo cards, and you got Blue Eyes, Dark Magician, and Red Eyes through those games, along with a few other cards the characters use. Those did not go on to be super expensive, but I do own some copies of those cards.
I remember that Dragon Sword card was in Joey the Passion.
Okay, yeah. I remember I think I have a Blue Eyes and maybe a Dark Magician. I don't know if I have a Red Eyes from Joey the Passion though. So yeah, those are the PC games, the kind of miscellaneous PC games. Mobile games? Do you remember any of this?
I remember, but I only remember they existed. I couldn't even tell you if I played. Well, we'll start off with Yu-Gi-Oh! Bam, which I know for a fact it existed. I don't remember anything about it.
I know a little bit about this. It was a like simplified Yu-Gi-Oh! I think it did like a 2x2 or a 3x3 grid little thing, and like you'd put the cards down. It was a Facebook app. Do you remember Facebook games?
Woo! I remember Farmville.
Yeah, it was like that. Like you played it specifically on Facebook. And I think it had little things you could invite friends to play. Then they later released it on mobile, like kind of.
I do remember the mobile kind of port of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Bam Pocket. There was also Dual Generation, which, to my understanding, was only on iPad.
Oh, that explains why I don't know about it then.
Yeah, I never got to play this one either. I think it came out in like 2011 maybe, 12, and it was just it was very similar to like the Decade Duels type of games. Oh, a little more simplified.
Oh, our Dual Generation. I played this one.
It might have been on all tablets. I don't really know. What was it?
I remember this. Yeah, it was just a Yu-Gi-Oh simulator. Just that honestly, there was nothing really special about it.
Yeah, it shut down at some point. You couldn't log back in. So I guess Cross Duel wasn't the first game to be sunset. Now that
I forgot Dual Generation could be sunset.
Yeah, because all three of these games are sunset. So we lied.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Dual Generation existed. And then there's Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Arena, which was an official client in browsers. So it wasn't actually a game that you bought. I think it was like a website that you logged into. And are you pulling it up?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up because I don't remember Duel Arena.
It was Duel Arena. It was browser based. I never played this, but
Why didn't you?
I don't remember. I think Dueling Network existed at the time.
Oh, that's what it was.
I was playing that. But I do know one fun fact about Duel Arena.
What's that?
Was that it debuted the Chibi monsters.
Yeah, I was looking at that right here. It had a Chibi Little Yugi and a Chibi Atem.
Yeah, so they're actually, if you guys are like playing the TCG at all right now, they have been re-releasing Chibi versions of these cards as like physical cards in the card game, and a lot of them debuted in Duel Arena because it had that cute Chibi style. So,
oh, look at little Yuma.
yeah, so I thought that was kind of neat, and I think that brings us to the end of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games.
Like, all this talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games has really made me realize I didn't play a lot of them.
I didn't either.
Guys, did you play a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games? Or what, like, are we just like the odd men out who just kind of missed out on most of it?
It is a weird experience. I feel like I have experienced some of them in adulthood to varying degrees through gameplay or kind of watching or whatever. But I feel like I didn't get to like live the Yu-Gi-Oh! Video game side of the childhood.
Certainly not.
What would you say is like just the biggest takeaway of Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games? Like just the whole conversation, bring it full circle.
I really miss when Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games were more creative endeavors. They weren't just simulators and not just freemium like gacha games.
Yeah, I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is at its best when, as an IP, it is experimenting and trying things. I certainly think that there should always be a simulator. Like, I think that Master Duel existing
definitely exists.
is great. But I would like to see like a Yu-Gi-Oh! Fighting game. I'd like to see a Yu-Gi-Oh! RPG again. Give me like a different type of board game.
Let me explain. Explore Domino City.
Yeah, I think that stuff like that would be so much fun. Give me something in VR. I know they got that VR demo that they like to show at events.
I've been saying for the longest, because some people believe that means we're going to get a Yu-Gi-Oh! VR game. And I keep saying that demo is all the Yu-Gi-Oh! VR we will ever have.
And you know why?
Why?
Because Cross Duel failed. Dang. One thing led to another. No, I have no clue if it's actually true. But the point is, that's the Yu-Gi-Oh! Video game history. Just a brief little, short video this week.
Right.
Yeah, we didn't talk for very long at all. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Let us know which of these games you played, what you remember of them, how you'd like to maybe see like a new Yu-Gi-Oh! Video game if that was to ever happen. What should that look like?
I feel like this might be one of those weird situations where by the time the video comes out, a Yu-Gi-Oh! Video game has been announced and now the whole video needs to be thrown out.
I would be so upset if that happened. We spent so much time on this. I did a lot of research for this. That means y'all better like and subscribe at least. If you made it this far, there's really no excuse not to. Like, literally you've wasted like your whole evening with us.
Yeah, you might as well just pull up a chair.
Yeah. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. We did do another video right up here where we went over all of the classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime rules that you didn't know about. Were the characters actually cheating, or were they just following rules we didn't know?
Hey, you can always hit the channel icon and just see what else we've been yapping about. We've got a few of those now.
We got a playlist of very long Yu-Gi-Oh! Chats that you can fall asleep to. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Pass turn.